Hey folks, welcome to the August Tech Talk. We have Ben Reed as our guest speaker this month. Ben is joining us from England and it's 11 p.m. his time. So thank you so much for accommodating. Hopefully you have coffee. I'm
No, no
excited to get to
coffee.
know, yeah, I'm excited. Tea, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to know your story and talk about your journey as transitioning out of the military. Can you go ahead and start and just tell me like your time in service? What did you do when you were in and just some details of that?
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for having me, Cynthia. I appreciate it. I was British Army enlisted, so non-commissioned officer for 12 years. Joined in 2005, left at the end of 2017. Um, I finished as a sergeant. Uh, Loved my time in the military. Never felt like I was doing the job that I really should have been doing. I wouldn't say I love being an aircraft engineer. Um, Wanted to move into tech.
Hmm.
So when I left, I really wanted to move into software sales specifically. I had a brother who was in the Royal Artillery, sister who was in the
Yeah.
Royal Engineers, so my brother was already doing that. So yeah, I found it extremely challenging to get into software sales. No one thought that an aircraft engineer could go and sell software. So I took a pivot and went and sold photocopiers in London for a
Hmm.
B2B for 18 months to prove that I could sell software and then managed to get a job in the software world. So it was an interesting journey. I enjoyed my time in the military, but I definitely found my calling when I got out of the military.
Yeah, so your time in, it sounds as if you have family members that served as well. Did you notice that folks, and I noticed this about Canadian forces too, that people tend to serve if they have family members that served. I'm the first one in my immediate family, and of course, my son followed suit, my oldest, who became a combat medic. And so it's really interesting to see like that parent-child relationship, and a lot of the folks getting in now, it just seems as if I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just kids, like getting
Yeah.
in. They're 18 years old, 17 or 18 years old. But that was literally like how old my son was when he entered. What was like, did you know that you were going to serve a period of time or try to do an entire career? What was your military life like?
Yeah, no, my parents, neither of my parents had served. So it was my eldest brother who had joined.
Hmm.
Um, Then, not none of our family had been to university either. We'd all gone out and started work straight away. So my brother joined the artillery, and my sister went to, your world college, so like
Hmm.
getting ready to go to university, and then decided to join the Royal Engineers. So
Hmm.
I had two older siblings who joined, right? Like so. I was getting ready to go to university, and I decided that I wasn't going to do that, and I was going to go and join the military and kind of follow in their footsteps. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like for me an influence that both of my older sister and brother had joined the military.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, so like, as you were transitioning out and becoming a veteran, how was that experience? Like getting out and then, like 12 years is a pretty good time. And then
It's a
like
reasonable stint.
leaving, yeah. It's almost
Yeah, I
like
was
you have to learn to speak as a civilian again and explain to
yeah.
people like, what did I just do for the last 12 years of my life?
Yeah, but do you know what? I tackle everything with just like a level of optimism and work ethic. And I just think I was just exactly the same when I left. I was very lucky. I was fortunate that I hadn't signed off with the military, and a friend, she transitioned from being like a sixth form, so college PE teacher. She
Hmm.
taught like physical education,
Hmm.
and she transitioned into sales, selling technology. So she just said to me one night at a party that we're having at our house, I think you'd be really good in this job. And my brother was already doing it, so I went and I got an interview with a boss
Okay.
in a pub of all places. So I went and met his boss. He said he
I
really
feel like
liked
that's the
me.
most English story ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a pub in a place called Staines, which is like 30 minutes from my house. He just said, I really like you. I think you do really well. If you sign off from the military, I'll give you a job. So with no contract or anything,
Yeah.
I went into in the next day, and I signed off and like had my fingers crossed that this guy was going to give me an actual contract and a job. He did, Um, so it's a weird old time for me. But I just like anything in life. I just think I just back myself. Like I have
Hmm.
a level of imposter syndrome with everything I do, but I think that's a good thing because it like makes you want to be better all the time. And I just
Hmm.
went and tackled it. That's kind of was my mindset. Still my mindset now.
Imposter syndrome is definitely a thing, especially in tech, because everything's changing rapidly, right? And evolving rapidly. And so you need to stay on the top of your game. And then I also find that being a founder, you're wearing so many hats that it can be like for people who act like they know it all, that's really not the case because nobody is able to know it all. But because you're like trying to break ground and do new things and you're solving problems that maybe there aren't solutions for existing. There is a type of imposter syndrome that at the beginning, like, talk to me about, so you went from software sales to when did you decide you were gonna start your own company?
Yeah, so like I did 18 months selling like B2B big like called MFDs, but like fundamentally photocopier contracts in London, like full like real hardcore sales, commodity sell. Then I managed to get a job at a Canadian software company called Descartes.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything, I didn't know what I was doing still, like I had no idea. I did that what happened is they acquired five businesses a year, circa five businesses a year, and I was getting bored. I was hitting all my targets, like smashing my targets, but I was getting bored. It's kind of slow moving, old school software company, and they acquired a company called Peoplevox. So they bought it for like $25 million. That company came into this bigger business, and I got the opportunity to go and work with this fundamentally a startup within this bigger, older school, kind of slow moving software company. So I got the bug from working with like the founder, some of the first employees. Like I loved it.
Yeah,
And then what the head of growth then moved out of that company. Like, they did their time, they served their earn out and they left. And they asked me if I wanted to go and be the head of sales for a startup in London. So that's about 4 years after being out. Like
yeah.
I'd done pretty well. And I'd earned quite a lot of money, definitely compared to what I was earning on the sergeant's wage. Um and I just had this bug for the startup world, but then I just realized that every month, like I was just trying to hit a higher number, my target, and earn more money, and it felt kind of like meaningless to me eventually. I'm not a lavish kind of guy. I bought a
Hmm.
stupid car once, and I don't own a car anymore. I didn't need that. I didn't. It needed to be more than just the money for me.
Hmm.
And in tandem, I'd like built this great career in a relatively short period of time in tech. And I had a ton of friends in the military who were, you know, as capable, if not more capable than me, in my opinion, who were like stagnating in
Hmm.
roles where they'd been given bad advice. They were much better. They had much skills, and they weren't leveraging those skills. They were underutilized. They were unfulfilled. So I just said, like, why is this the case? I started looking into it, started doing some LinkedIn posts, and I just realized that it's just a massive challenge in general for people getting out of the military.
Yeah.
Like trying to align your own personal like experience, the things that you've done in the military to careers out there, and like understanding what careers are out there and what you could earn over time. And so I just decided I had a ton of cash saved up. I gave myself a year,
Hmm.
and that's what I did. I quit my job on paternity leave. So my wife had just had our first child.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's a big leap. That's a big transition too. Like you're becoming a parent. I think like as a parent I have three, they're all grown now, if you can believe it or not. But there is another type of responsibility, right? Because when I got out, like I was going through so many changes, not just the post-service change, but figuring out like where am I going to live? Where's home anymore? And I was going through a divorce and like single parent and then trying to be responsible for two
Yeah.
kids going off to college that would like in and of itself, I felt like I couldn't just make decisions for me. I had to make decisions as a parent, like because now I had to provide for them and their stability. But ultimately at the end, I became an entrepreneur because I thought my kids are watching me. Like if I don't live to my full capability, then I can't really tell them to go for their dreams because if you just play it safe, like you could be an employee, like working in tech, you grow extremely quickly. You're making pretty good money. But ultimately, like what you said, hit the nail on the head. A lot of veterans are looking for purpose. And most people are in jobs where they're like, okay, I'm paying the bills, I'm taking care of my family, but I need purpose and I need impact. And so even folks that are working in tech at the beginning when they're newbies, they kind of have to take whatever comes to them. But then between 3 to 5 years, you grow so quickly that you're like, okay, now I'm at a senior level and now I can decide what I want to do with my career. And we're seeing that now at Operation Code. Like unless somebody landed at Operation Code or somebody told them, they don't have a manual for life. Like they get out of the military and they might have 2 weeks of what we call transition assistance program. It's called the TAP program.
Yeah,
It's very like basic. It's like basic resume writing. A lot of times when people are coming from like combat roles, they're told, well, you can go into like fast food or retail, like stuff that you could do when you graduated from high school. It's not exactly
yeah,
challenging. And you've already had so much leadership experience in the military that profound change, you're just not used to what are some of my options, what matches with my personality, my skill set. So I'm really excited to see what you're doing really overlaps with a lot of what we do at Operation Code. And like, yeah, so when you started, like, you were doing paternity leave and trying to figure out, like, how did you land your first investment? Like going from ideation to, okay,
yeah.
now I have this somewhat tangible thing.
Yeah, so in the November of that year, I incorporated the company on paternity leave, and then I spoke to the founders of the company I was with. I said I'd give them to the end of Q1, so the end of March, and then I was going to go it alone. So I worked up until the end of March, and then yeah, I gave myself a year. So I had runway, I had money in the bank. I could pay myself like over that year's
Hmm.
period, which is what I did. Um, and that was really about like establishing the business, starting to like build the brand a little bit. I'm a
Hmm.
big believer in like brand building. I think the way people feel about your company is like super important, especially if it's people focused. Um, and I just started to understand the problem, understand the challenge, explore in the UK, exploring a little bit in the US, exploring a bit in Canada. Um, won a bit of business, started working with some decent companies. Um, but really, we weren't doing the type of business we wanted to do long term. I wanted to build technology, but I just didn't want to jump in without really understanding what was going on in the market. So we ran that I did that for 10 months, and then I started to raise money. So I
Okay.
went out and raised like a pre-seed
Yeah.
round. At that point, we closed out £375,000, so circa half $500,000,
Hmm.
and started to build using low code, no code. So
Yeah.
Bubble,
Yeah.
which I'm sure a lot of people in your space will know. So the hypothesis there was like let's run with Bubble initially. Let's start testing some things, lower cost than building an in-house dev team,
Hmm.
and then from there, based on what we learn, we'll start to build out an internal team. So
Okay.
that's what we did. What I first thought was build a translation engine. So when someone applies for a job, translate their experience into the world of the employer, and like it's a really great use case and something that's important now we learn about, and we're going to apply. But actually, that's not the challenge. The challenge is what how did the veteran ever get to applying for that job?
Yeah.
Like that's the big piece to this. It's irrelevant if you translate someone's experience for a job application that's a bad fit or wrong culturally,
Hmm.
or the veterans uneducated, or the veterans applied for 200 jobs because they don't know how to do it in the right way.
Right.
So it's a good learning experience. We built on low code, no code, and then last year, I then built an in-house dev team and
Okay.
brought a co-founder in from the US, like we've been together properly as a team for just over 12 months now.
Oh, wow.
So
That's exciting. Yeah, so
yeah,
now you went from prototype, tested the idea, got feedback. I'm interested to see like how many people, when you were testing it out on veterans, how many people were able to bridge that gap from like taking the test and seeing what was available to them. Um, like were they able to go and apply for those jobs and were they like able to embrace some of the Because I would imagine, like, let's say, for example, the algorithm spits out, hey, you would be a good match for healthcare, but the person doesn't really have healthcare experience. Is it fear that holds them back? Like, what is the thing that stops the veteran from applying and moving
Yeah.
forward?
Oh, a number of things. If you think you've come in from a like relatively regimented environment, right? So like you come into this ambiguous, non like linear,
Hmm.
promotion in the military is linear. You know what
Hmm.
your sergeant's being paid, you know what in the British Army what your RSM is feasibly on. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't think veteran like military transition, career transition is dissimilar to any other career transition. Like a teacher who wants to leave education or a nurse who wants to leave healthcare. I just think in the military, you've got quite a lot of things stacked up on top of each other at the same time. So you're leaving an institution, you're leaving a friendship group, you're having to move location. Your your partner might be moving jobs, your kids might be moving school. You don't. I joke that I didn't know who Salesforce were in 2017.
Yeah.
So you're in this bubble. So I just think it's a really tough challenge because there are a lot of things stacked up. And then the reality is because it's a tough challenge, there are things in place that help people to transition. Like, teachers don't have TAP
Hmm.
or CTP in the UK. But what I would say is it's not personal. And I think that's the biggest challenge. It doesn't look at an individual. It gives you kind of broad brush advice on how to transition out. And gives you the stereotypical jobs that veterans should be able to do, right? Like, oh, you go and
Hmm.
move into ops or project management or whatever it is. And like the reality is each individual has their own story in the career. Like they've done different things, worked on different, regardless, same rank and same unit, like been on
Hmm.
different operational tours, different kit, different experiences, just a different career. So you need to get down to the individual and understand what skills they've developed as an individual and what they want to achieve, not just now, but
Hmm.
what in the next 5 years? Like, where do you want to go? Because stability is fine. If you don't want to promote, you just want a steady job, like that's fine as well, right? Or if you want to be a
Yeah.
high flyer and you want to go and be a VP or an SVP in the future, that's great as well. But like giving, understanding the individual on a personal level, I think super important to then provide the best recommendations.
So that's what we do at Operation Code as well. Like they can start and explore and get those tech certifications and go to a coding boot camp or go get your, traditional 4-year degree or your graduate degree. But ultimately, what we're noticing are two things. One, people that are veterans or military spouses are more comfortable in the student role. So they start to experience a ton of anxiety right around graduation. And then they'll go, well, I don't know if I really am prepared. I don't feel prepared for the workforce. So then they'll like enroll in another degree. And so they're overeducated. So they have all of these tech certifications and all of these degrees. But what it really is anxiety about entering the workforce and doing something new because now they just transitioned like school is also very regimented, right? So they know exactly where they have to go. They know exactly what's due, all of their exams, like certifications. But then leaving that environment is now like, oh my gosh, I might have a boss that's like 10 to 20 years younger than I am, who's my supervisor in tech. And I don't really know the culture. So there's that huge cultural transition, which we need to remove that fear. And then the second problem that we're noticing are people that are individual contributors. So your individual developers, programmers, your people that are like they're consultants or they're not managing people. And then they get to a point in their career where they're like, I love being in an individual contributor. I don't necessarily want to move into a people manager role in order to move up, right? So there's like kind of this lie where people think, hey, like I've maxed out my level or I've maxed out my salary because I'm now like an individual contributor 5. And that company like Amazon or Google or whatever, that's the highest level you can get. And then the next logical level would be a team lead, people manager. But they don't really want to be people managers because it's a completely different skill set. So now we're noticing like, hey, if you love to be an individual contributor, you don't have to be a people manager. But also like it's like constantly shifting your hat throughout your career. So I don't think career transition happens just when somebody's getting out of the military. It doesn't just happen when you decide, like for example, the first 15 years of my career, I worked in healthcare. I was a licensed clinical social worker working out of hospitals. I was on call. I was burnt out and I knew I needed to leave my career. And then I moved into tech, which was like very, very different for me. But it was literally like just shifting a different skill set. And now running Operation Code, I find that my clinical skills have come back. Like I'm still utilizing those skills. I'm still utilizing like the people skills, the clinical skills, and then my technology skills. So it never fully leaves you, but it's like you're just pivoting and you're putting on another hat. And I think that as people grow, and I don't know if you notice this, but as people grow, it's like embracing the idea of change. And that change is really not that scary, you know? So talk a little bit about like redeployable as a brand and how you can get people to adopt the idea of using the platform and the product.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's in you. I mean, you said quite a lot there. There's quite a lot to unpack, but I just think people are used to moving around. Like you used to moving to a new unit after like I don't know the time frames are in the US, but in the UK, 2 to 3 years, you're moving into a new
Hmm.
unit, new
Hmm.
equipment, new leadership, new peers, like, and you adapt quickly, and you have to adapt quickly because it's a new environment, and you're only there for 2, 3 years. So civilian life is no different. You just got to go in there. And the reality is you don't. I mean, I don't want to swear, but like, don't don't be a dick. I'm allowed to say that on here.
Yep.
Be humble. Don't go in with any ego. It doesn't matter if your supervisor is 10 years younger than you. Like that's fine. Like it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And there's this it happens in tech sales as well, right? You think that a really good individual contributor, they promote them because they're a really good individual contributor and they're a terrible leader.
Hmm.
Like it's all right just being an individual contributor for a long period of time. You can always, if you're doing a really good job, you can always continue to ask for more money.
Yeah.
It's not about the title, it's more about you just progression and what progression means to you. Like, you don't need to strive to be the CEO of the business if you don't want to do that, right? So I think veterans need to like let the guard down a little bit and like go that ego of like whatever rank they were in the military when they're getting out. Just get in there and work hard. If it's the right career, that's one of the most important things is are you in the right environment, in the right career, surrounded by people that you enjoy working with? I think that's
Hmm.
super important. And then your career will develop from there and you'll meet people and you'll do a good job. And new opportunities will come from the good work that you do and the good person that you are. None of my jobs after my first job were ever I've never applied for them. There were people who I'd met, I'd done a good job, I'd left a good impression, and they asked me if I wanted to come and interview or
Yeah.
come and work for their company. So I just think you need to be super open-minded when you get out. You need to just go into
The
it with like,
networking piece, that's exactly what I feel like. Right now, especially since the traditional tech market is very saturated. It's like we've seen a lot of mass layoffs. We're seeing AI take over more of those entry level roles. And so some of our vets that are newbies in tech, it's harder for them to enter. And I've actually had to make an emphasis on, no longer are you actually writing the code maybe as entry level, but you're overseeing code. You're now implementing AI and you're overseeing perhaps some LLMs and you're making sure that there's no flaws and you're having to kind of tap into those people skills. And those soft skills that you learned as a leader in the military, whether you were enlisted or officer. But there's definitely that learning curve throughout the career journey. And like for example, we have one of our Marines who super gung-ho, doesn't have a degree, like started through Operation Code, ended up getting a job with one of the big five tech companies, got very burnt out. And he's like, look, I like hardly was around for my kids because I focused on my tech career. And because of the fact that like when you wear that uniform or when you wear that rank, it becomes so ingrained in your identity that somehow when you get out and you have that tech job, it's kind of that same mentality where you feel like, wait, do I now have to give over 110% to my job who's going to burn me out and I don't have time for my family? So now we're seeing people kind of go, you know what? Like my job isn't my identity. as much as I love tech, my family means more to me, or this other thing, right? Like being involved in my kids' soccer game and so I can coach their soccer team, or being involved in my church or being involved in my community. That means more to me. And so now they're reframing, hey, I can have a tech role that's maybe not going to be taking up so much of my responsibility and so much of my time, so that when I check out and like this is okay to end the job at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, go spend some time with my family. That's what we're noticing. A shift in priorities, a shift in culture where people still love working in their careers, but now it's like what is meaningful to them might have shifted. Whereas in the military, you have a big sense of, we talk about this a lot, like family, because you eat, breathe, and sleep and play and party with the people you serve with. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to distinguish. There's no way to just cut off work from work and then go home in the military. It's like all of that kind of gets entangled. Whereas now people are like, I don't want to give my company, who they told me I was family, but yet they're laying off 5,000 people at a go. And so now we're now in a cultural shift in the cultural workforce. But yeah, like help me run through, you can feel free to demo or go through your platform and just show people what does it look like when they first come to your site and how do they navigate it?
Yeah, I'll take you through it. Let's go through it. I think that's probably the best way to start. And this is changing all the time, right? Like we've got a dev team and we constantly get user feedback both on the employer side. We work with a lot of NGOs to help
Hmm.
them deliver more value. So from an NGO perspective, and also from the veteran perspective. So we really partner with three different types of users: veterans, NGOs, non-profits, and employers. So when they come in, we built a whole skill taxonomy for the UK and US military, soon to be the Canadian military as well, where we fundamentally give them a framework. So we ask them a number of questions, and we also ask them to provide us with a story of their career. That can be in the form of a MOS code or a Navy code or an Air Force code. The more data, the better. And what we can do there is create them a skill bank. So you see, we get a hard and soft skill bank here,
Hmm.
and this is just giving them like that framework. And very soon, there's going to be an element of validation here. So each user is improving the recommendations engine by validating some of the skills that we present based on the experiences that they have. So that's kind of the starting point for every veteran that comes in. Then what we do is we put them into a workflow, and again, forgive me, it's my data. I've been messing around in here, but we'll drop them into one of five buckets. Not everyone's made equal, right? Some of them are super early, don't know what they want to do. Some of them are rushing. They've got 12 weeks to transition because they've been medically discharged. Some of them got no idea like what industry they want to go into. So we'll drop them into either career direction, career development, personal brand,
Hmm.
network building, or job hunting. And in the first phase, this is ideally where we want to catch people when they're super early, maybe 12 months away from needing a job. And we've built a number of AI exercises in here that start to pull out more information on the individual. So, what are your career values and deal breakers as an example? So we help them work through that in short, sharp exercises so it's not too tedious. We then start to go deep on their civilian their skill bank and start to translate it into civilian world. So again, gets them to start thinking about the skills that they developed. It's a big ego boost. They didn't think they had any skills, and actually, generally, they've got a lot of skills in different areas, both hard and soft skills. And then we get into this qualification piece. So we build that framework and we dangle carrots all the way through. The first carrot is, well, what careers could I potentially go and do? What would be interesting? So we then provide them this career match, career recommendation. We give them three initially. And
Hmm.
what we gather when they first get in is how do they like to work? How do they not like to work? What do they want in the future? What do they not want? We've got all of their skills. So we build up a profile and we can provide them with three recommendations. So let's just use sales engineer as an example. So what we'll do is we'll tell them what it is initially, and this is just to start getting them thinking about careers that are out there. We'll tell them why we think them as an individual would be a really good fit for this role. So not just because you're an aircraft engineer, like why would Ben Reed be a good fit? We'll then give you a skill gap analysis. So we'll tell you some of the skills that relate to this role that you have and some of the skills you need to think about acquiring. We can start to give you salary benchmark for that type of role across different industries. So all you're doing is getting a little bit of visibility. Again, you don't need to make any decisions at this point.
Hmm.
From there, what we do is we show them something called job drops. So they're in show us tell us they're interested in some of these careers. And what we'll do is we work with organizations to create realistic scenarios related to a role. So let's use this one as an example. So rather than saying, again, this is staging, rather than saying, um, this is a field service engineering scenario. This is called Operation Ground Game, and it's not an assessment in the sense of you're applying for a job. It's to figure out whether you like the tasks related to certain types of roles. So what we do is we give them this scenario, and it's like bringing the role to life. The background to
Mm,
this is we set ourselves tasks last year with Schneider Electric, a big enterprise organization, and Honeywell to get cohorts of veterans hired without them ever seeing a resume. So could we show skill match? Could we show the like skill alignment from a veteran and then show them how they performed within these scenarios? So we give them Operation Ground Game as an example, 15-minute, three short tasks. And what we do is we hit the veteran with a scenario. So they've just arrived on site, just as a summary, it's chaos. And we give them some extra context on the left-hand side. So a handover log in this situation, a work order. We again using multimodal I'll learn soon. So these will be actual voice notes from the junior tech who was on shift previously, and then a health and safety notice. And then what they can do is they work through a number of tasks. Again, it doesn't take very long. So in this case, they're prioritizing the situation. We're testing both for multi-choice and justification of the answer.
yeah.
And then we ask them to email the client. So they provide us with an email to the client, and then finally we ask them to show us what's wrong or what they think's wrong, a diagnosis, and tell us where they'd look first. Both again, multi-choice and justification. The result of that for the veteran, if you think about like one of the biggest questions that people have is what's next? Like what
Hmm.
could I go and do? We are able to then, through every task, we ask them if they enjoy that work, and we're able to score their performance. So we can give them instant feedback on how they performed within that scenario. So you can see this was actually the Operation Ground Game was for field service engineering. We think it's a good fit. We tell them where like is it a growing role?
Hmm.
Is it a competitive salary? And is the career stable? And then we give them a performance breakdown of every single task so we can tell them whether they performed well, whether they enjoyed it, what skills they needed, how they performed with context, their feedback, and then their career fit. And the idea is we can start helping people to navigate through the different tasks. So say they really like prioritize the panic and show what you know, but hated email communication. What other types of career fields out there, simulations can we point you towards where there's less of the email communication with clients and more of the prioritizing the panic and showing what you know in the diagnosis piece. So it's
Yeah.
all in that career exploration for the veteran, but what it gives them is a ton of data on the role, where it's going, how they performed, and whether we think they're a good fit versus other people that have been through this process. So that's kind of
So
like
they're getting
the
real-time feedback, like on how they did in the Operation Ground Game and their career matching skill, skills. And this almost reminds me, I don't know what you guys call it in the UK forces, but in the States, they have ASVAB, the
when you
military
sign up.
proficiency. Yeah, when you first sign up for the military, you do this military proficiency test, right? And I am really, really bad at spatial. I don't know what it is. I just can't get my head around, and I'm just not meant to be an engineer, mechanical engineer, but I'm really good at like systems thinking and design, which is a little weird. But like when you go through this, it's like, okay, this is what you're really good at. This is maybe what you're not so good at. And then your recruiter can see on the back end what you scored and what you're really
eh,
proficient in.
Well, the next phase of this is okay. I really like field service engineering. That's a career I want to go and join. We have companies on the other side who would be interested in hiring field service engineers. You can join their pathway and you can consume their content around field service engineering, their company in the industry. What we do for the veteran is then say, okay, you're interested in field service engineering. Here's what you need to do to upskill over the time period that you have to become the very best possible field service engineer out there in the market. So we can provide them, we give them an overview of, I mean, in this instance, I want to be an AI software sales guy. So skill gap analysis, the skills I need to address. I told it I had no money. I like self-paced courses.
Hmm.
and I had a certain amount of hours a week. And I also told it that my kids are going to be the blocker to me actually completing this training. So it provides me with courses to go and do related to the career that I'm interested in. It gives it me in a sequence as well as milestones. And then it gives me an accountability strategy based on the things that are going to stop me from actually completing this training. So we give them that framework to then go away and start to learn and train and become the very best field service engineer
Hmm.
with the visibility of the company on the side. So the company can see your skill match, how you perform within the simulation, what you're doing from an upskill perspective. And that could be 10 months away from you ever applying for a job at that company. So
Right.
it gives you an extra element of, okay, this candidate's got 60% of the skills. Actually, they're developing another 20% themselves, and I can see that. And oh yeah, by the way, they've also consumed all of our content in our pathway. So we can see that they're super engaged with our company and they're interested in our company. And this looks like a really good candidate for our business. So it's given us a ton of data on the veteran that we can use to sell them
Hmm.
to that company.
Yeah,
Um,
alternatively, companies who might say, hey, this candidate isn't ready for full-time hire or ready hire, we work with a lot of tech companies to create paid apprenticeship, right? So, like,
yep,
they could ideally even use this platform to enter somebody into an apprentice role and say, right, they're not ready to be a ready hire, direct hire yet, but they could spend 6 to 12 or 14 months as a paid apprentice while we're training them, while we're kind of bridging those skill gaps.
yep.
And then we're already interviewing them for like we know that they're going to be a good fit pending all of these steps that they have to address, and then they move directly into a direct hire role at the end of that apprenticeship.
Yeah, exactly. Great. A perfect use case in that scenario, and the company has visibility of that. I think the next three buckets are okay. I'm kind of in the right direction, and I figured out what I want to go and do and what I need to go and do to become the very best, whatever it is I've decided on. The next bit is like, how do I just be generally a better candidate? So again use AI to help them create a LinkedIn headline based on the career that they're interested in, help them create their LinkedIn summary
Hmm.
based on the career that they're interested in. So what we're trying to do is help them position themselves in the best way externally and also then help them to figure out how best to network in the right way. So we do all of that and dangle lots of carrots all the way through. So like in this instance, once they've completed personal brand, we'll allow them to jump into a practice pitch session based on the elevator pitch that they've created here. Or we'll allow them to join mini WhatsApp groups of people who are at a similar stage of career transition from the military so they can start to learn from each other. So we're always dangling the carrots to make sure that people are completing the right actions in the right way because we think if you put the work in, you know, you're giving yourself the best chance of landing not just a job, but a job that is going to fulfill you in the long term.
Hmm.
And that's it
Oh,
in
awesome.
a
So, like
nutshell.
with the job hunt little bucket, how does that work?
The job hunt. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, ideally, we're not asking you to go and apply for jobs, right? Because there's companies on the other side who are going to see you and be able to reach
Oh,
out to you on this
okay.
platform.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got to think about like the dynamics of what's going on in the market right now. Like, candidates now using AI can apply for 100 jobs in a super personalized way. That's
Hmm.
happening already. Like, that's easy, much easier than before. What that means is there's a massive influx of applications coming to companies. I was with a big financial services company the other day, and they convert 0.04% of their applications annually, millions of applications.
Hmm.
Like, so that what that means is recruitment teams are having to implement technology to try and sift out some of this noise. So we're using AI to start keyword sifting, trying to get rid of like a lot of the volume because 98% of it's not a good fit. So as a veteran or anyone looking to switch career, you're disadvantaged. You're going
Hmm.
to slip through the cracks. It's a tough, challenging environment to be applying for any job online. So what this is all about is actually cutting through that and saying, hey, recruitment teams, like you've got all of this talent here that you don't really understand because you don't understand their skills and their previous background. We can help you understand that, but we can also help you understand how proactive this individual is for 10 months prior to them ever applying for a job at your company.
Yeah.
So it cuts through a lot of that noise for those organizations and it helps the veterans to get in front of these companies way, way sooner than they would traditionally.
Nice. Yeah. So it's basically an advantage instead of
Absolutely.
cold applying.
Well, no, we position you in to give yourself an advantage if you want to grab that opportunity.
Yeah.
You need to go away and you need to consume the information, right? And you need to
Hmm.
select that you want to join that pathway and you need to complete a simulation. Like it's on you, and I think that's important with all of this. Like no one's going to give you handouts when you get out of the military. I did a
Hmm.
post about that today on LinkedIn, and it blew up. Like it's true. Like you should leave the military with an expectation that society owes you nothing, and you've got to go and really work hard and try and figure out what's next for you. Like, I'm not saying that's correct. I think people who serve are owed like
Yeah.
there's service there, right? But your mindset shouldn't be that. Your mindset should be like, I need to take control of whatever's next. So people need to put the work in my opinion,
I
to find
completely
the right career.
understand that. Yeah. Because I think that like sometimes, especially with the military, you literally get orders and somebody yells at you if you don't show up, right?
Yeah,
Like you're literally handheld. Like you get your housing, you get your healthcare, you have like everything taken care of. Your household goods get shipped. Somebody comes and packs your house. You're eligible to apply for like on-base housing versus off-base housing. Like it's almost as if everything is taken care of for you. That when you spend a majority of time in that environment, a very rigid, very structured environment, one of the biggest challenges that I see with veterans is not the cognitive learning. It is not the
yeah, definitely
dissonance.
not.
It's not like I don't understand this programming language or I don't understand this tech stack. It is not here. It is here. It is more of that cultural embrace of exactly what you said. When people get out, they're like, where's my orders? Like, why isn't somebody giving me a job? Or people will join Operation Code and like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Like, somebody give me a job. And like, we'll give you the tools. We will help you, but nobody's going to yell at you at 6 o'clock in the morning saying, do push-ups. Nobody's going to say, how many jobs did you apply for this week? Or how many people did you network with? Folks are always ready and willing to lend a hand and answer any question, but it's ultimately up to the individual to really take a look at, and this is the same thing as when I started as a new founder, I felt like a ping pong ball because sometimes you're in these accelerators, you're talking to so many funders, right? And depending on who you talk to, and you've got this bright shiny idea, they're like, well, why didn't you do this idea that worked for, Y Combinator? Well, it doesn't work for them because I'm not in that space. And so you have to take the feedback with a grain of salt and go, okay, this feedback is going to work for me. I'm going to take it and run with it. This other feedback isn't going to necessarily work for me. And I can reject it and go, thank you very much and be humble. Right. But then you have to decide, like, what am I going to filter? What information is helpful for me? What information maybe isn't so beneficial? But like, I guess the last piece of advice is tell me how somebody can sign up. Like, is your product and ready for people to sign up now, or are you still like
Yeah.
in the testing phase?
No, 100% people can jump in. Yeah. Yeah. People we get hundreds of signups every month. Yeah. It's US centric, it's UK centric.
Okay.
So yeah, it's redeployable.io.
Hmm.
Um, I can maybe share a link after this. Like the
Yeah, I'll
initial
post it.
phase is
When I publish the YouTube, I will put it in the description so people can just click on the link too.
amazing. Yeah, so just jump into redeployable.io and in the top right it'll say login on the screen. And just have a play around. And like for anyone who is listening, who's watching this, we're game for feedback, right? Like it doesn't need to all be rosy feedback. We're learning. We have no ego. It's about building the best possible product for UK and US veterans. So any feedback people have got, I know you've got a lot of technical talent.
Yeah,
I know
our devs might give you like technical feedback on like, hey, this section, maybe you could try to do this better. It's just our
great.
community, our folks
That's
are,
what we want. That's what we want. That's 100% what we want. You know, we're trying to do the best for the community. It's challenging, right? Building technology is difficult. It
yeah.
costs a lot of money. It takes time. So any feedback is super important. And I know that there's obviously an affinity with the military community in your
Hmm.
community. So
Hmm.
yeah, any feedback would be more than welcome.
So I know you mentioned that your initial goal was to help transitioning military and veterans. Can people like civilians, can they use this?
They can. They can use it and they will get value from it, but it's set up right now for the specifically serving or veterans,
Okay.
so serving personnel, veterans. In the future, it will be for spouses as well.
Yeah.
and dependents. I don't just believe in bolting on spouses. And for me, that's like we've got a responsibility to provide the best possible skill translation and recommendations for an individual. Spouses are not veterans. They've had a whole different life, whole different
Hmm.
challenges, whole different careers. They're to me just a different community of same community, but a different type of people that we need to support in the right way. So we don't just open this up for spouses because it's more people using our platform.
Right.
We're going to be deliberate in the way that we serve spouses in the near future.
Okay, so
Um,
maybe that's like another user persona that needs to be created where the journey is tailored specifically. Because it's the same way in our community. Like we have the scholarships that are available to veterans, military spouses, currently serving, transitioning, guard, reserves. But the way that we mentor spouses is different than the way
yeah,
we would mentor somebody who's about to get out or currently serving because for example, like a lot of our tech partners, they might say, hey, it's really hard for us to hire a military spouse because they're moving all the time.
yeah,
And then you have people from the US or the UK that move overseas and they can't necessarily work because they don't have a work visa when they're serving
yeah,
overseas, right? So then
yeah,
you see huge gaps in their resume. And then you're also seeing some cultural changes right now with return to office. So a lot of companies like, and right now in the US, we're working on legislation to incentivize companies to create a military spouse hiring act. So that means they can say, look, if you're an active duty military spouse or your service member has been mobilized, so they might have been reserves or guard and they've been mobilized to active duty. If a company allows that spouse to remain remote, you're actually helping your service member.
yeah,
So this is a way that they can kind of get around the whole RTO, policies. But and then in return they get like tax incentives for
yeah.
hiring folks. So, but this is super, super insightful. Thank you so much for joining us, Ben. I will go ahead and post this on our YouTube and share it with our community. I'll put it in our newsletter as well, and then we'll do like a social shout out. I know a couple people joined in here and there and missed stuff, so I'm sure people will want to rewatch. But thank you again, and like whatever feedback I get, I'll like pass it along. Do you have, other than the redeployable.io, is there like a website that people can like drop information if they're like, hey, I'm on the site and I just have some feedback they want to send to you? Do you have like a
Yeah,
main email?
yeah, there's a support at redeployable.io, but also Ben at redeployable.io. Like message me directly. Like I'm again, that's we're we're an open team, so support or Ben at redeployable.io is our email. So yeah,
Awesome.
I'm
Thank
happy
you
to
so
open to
much.
feedback
Have
directly.
a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Ben.
it. See you later.
Bye.